So one of the concerns I've had, I've talked to other people who grew up Catholic and some became Protestant. One of the issues they mentioned was that it's real easy, especially if you're born into it, to not actually be born again and not realize it, like not actually, like they were baptized as a baby. It's kind of a tradition. They follow these traditions,
Mhm.
but in their heart, they haven't really devoted their life to Christ. And they think that part of the reason why Protestantism is appealing is you have to own your faith. It's harder for that to happen. Like if you were going to a Baptist church, for example, you'd be taught your whole life you can't live off the faith of your parents. You must personally believe in your heart, confess with your mouth, and truly make Jesus the Lord of your life. This can't be like a tradition. This can't be just you're going through the motions. You have to give your heart to Jesus Christ yourself. And once you do that, then you're born again. This is actually something I've been thinking about recently. What would your response to that be? Is that true? Is it easy as a Catholic to potentially not even be saved and not realize it, not really be devoted to Christ because you were raised in it? And I'm sure that that's true on the Protestant side too. It's easy to fall into anyway, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, I think that familiarity breeds contempt generally, and the things that are common are easily taken for granted. So I don't think that it's a specific defect in the church that what you're saying. I personally am in a parish where there are tons of young families and tons of young kids, and they're absolutely on fire for their faith. And it's true that the way that a lot of parishes are set up in America since Vatican II, if anybody knows anything about church history, after Vatican II, there's a little bit of a weird transition period that we're just now coming out of. But the faith was somewhat lost, at least in its handing down, at least in that tradition, right? Traditio means to hand on. From the boomer generation to our generation, something was lost in communication after Vatican II. So there's a reason that the church started to decline, and there's a reason that young people were turned off from the faith because they started to mess things up. Maybe not mess things up, but they started to try new things and they weren't working. So now we're seeing the church, the Catholic Church specifically, is recovering from that. And we see a lot of people my age and younger, and they're returning to the traditions. The liturgy that I attend a traditional Latin Mass. It has its roots. There's some scholarship that suggests that St. Peter may have written part of the Roman canon, part of the prayer that is said at every Mass. So the liturgy that I attend has its roots all the way back to possibly one of the apostles, which is a fantastic and tremendous thing. And we're starting to see this return to this ancient liturgy because people my age are thirsting for meaning and direction. And after Vatican II, I'm not trashing Vatican II. I'm not one of those guys. A lot of Catholics out there will say Vatican II is the entire problem with the whole church. I'm not one of those. But after Vatican II, they tried some new things. They didn't work. And now people my age are returning, and they're returning to the fathers, and they're returning to the ancient traditions, and they're returning in droves. That's why the church I go to, there are hundreds of kids below the age of, I don't know, 16. And the vast, vast majority of them, you can tell just from their sincerity, from the way that they pray, from the way that they behave at the liturgy, you can tell that it's not their parents' faith anymore. It truly is their faith. So yes, that is a problem. I recognize that in the Catholic Church, this idea of people just going to Mass on Sundays and not adopting the faith for themselves. I don't think it's a problem that's specific to Catholicism, and I think it's a problem that's starting to be ameliorated in the past 10 years.